This one is going to be a little different. Usually we visit locations that have a lot of stories. Stories that we are excited about and would like to share with our friends. That's you, just in case you don't know that you're my friend. But for some reason, I could not find a lot of actual events that happened at this location. And we weren't given a tour guide where I could ask these things. But we did talk with the contractor on the property and he told us about his experience working there. I will play that clip at the end. Surprisingly, all the information I saw on the internet were the same stories being told over and over again without much detail. Another thing I kept seeing and hearing about is that walking through a haunted location like this, one doesn't usually see the paranormal until they get home and begin editing. Some say they hear disembodied voices, both male and female, phantom footsteps, an apparition of a woman. Poltergeist activity has been reported to be in the laundry room, which I will show you later. There have been sounds of coughing and wheezing, and some visitors have reported unexplained, uneasy feelings around the property. That I did feel. This is why this is going to be different. I will tell the few stories I gathered, but with my flair. That is, the fabrication is all mine, but the incidents did happen. But I won't be doing my voiceover much so that I'm not distracting you. Now, as we move through these buildings, if you believe in the paranormal, I want you to pay close attention to the surroundings and let me know if you see anything moving around these murky rooms and coming out of these peeling walls at this haunted Indiana State Sanatorium. Just to see if what these paranormal hunters say is true for us. If you do, tell me about it. I am LT Bartek. Welcome to Some Stories of Mine and the series This Happened Here. Walk with us as we tour these dilapidated, abandoned buildings while I tell you some stories about the Indiana State Sanatorium. Again, keep a keen eye out and let me know if you see anything. We visited what is commonly called the Haunted Indiana State Hospital. After doing a lot of research on this former hospital, I struggled to bring it to you. But one thing for sure is that I will not be tackling it like most of those who have gone there before me. They went in search of paranormal entities. I went to get footage to enhance the stories of this place. After stopping at the Wilbur Wright Museum, that's the last video, we arrived 1 hour before closing, which wasn't enough time for a proper visit to all these buildings. And we had to leave on time because another group of ghost hunters had booked the site for paranormal over the weekend stay. You can do that. I have to say, and you already know this about me, I do not believe in ghosts. Other things, yes, but not ghosts. After going through most of these buildings, I must say that only one of them made me feel like there was something else there with me, not ghosts. It was sunset outside, still very bright, but somehow it was unnaturally dark inside this building. I'm not sure if that was what threw me off or if it was because I was suddenly alone. CB, only about 10 feet away from me, had stepped out of sight to check the map because it was too dark inside the building for him to see clearly. But even though I was screaming his name, he could not hear me. Suddenly, everything felt wrong where I was standing, and I looked to find a quick way out from where I was. I tried to walk down the dark passageway where I had come from, but the feeling intensified. I turned and walked towards another exit. Just as I was about to run from the building, I heard him call me, and all was well. Needless to say, he got a good scolding, more from my fear than anything else. Thinking about it now, I think it might be the essence of the pain endured by the former residents which still lingers there. Think of it. You're placed here because you're ill. A lot is going on inside your body that you don't know how to fix. You're scared, and no one in your family can or sometimes wants to take care of you. You're left here alone, feeling abandoned and scared of the nurses and patients who sometimes want to physically harm you and what is to come. You're not sure if you will live through this. You're beginning to feel less than human. That kind of anguish can sometimes get embedded into your surroundings and might linger there like a skunk spray for a long time. That is what I believe in. I believe in the human spirit, not the dead human spirit. But don't let my beliefs cloud yours. Believe in what you want to. And if by chance you have a story to convince me, write to me at ltbartek@gmail.com and let me know. Now for a little history before the stories. Remember to keep looking as I take you around. The Indiana State Sanatorium treated tuberculosis patients in West Central Indiana, a place known as Rockville, Indiana, from 1909 to 1968. It was also known as the Indiana Tuberculosis Hospital. It was built on over 200 acres. Other property were built men's, women's, and children's wards, an administration building, staff housing, a farm and dairy, a school, a greenhouse, and a tunnel system that is said to connect most of the buildings where people living on the property could travel during inclement weather. The hospital is over 120,000 square feet. By 1911, the new hospital was fully opened and operational. Each wing had long porches for patients to get plenty of fresh air. In 1968, as tuberculosis treatment became more effective, fewer patients needed care, so the sanatorium was operating at a loss. That year, they converted it into a psychiatric hospital to repurpose the facility, opening its doors to house patients with mental disorders. However, that did not last long because it closed again in 1969 when the state sold the property. Then in 1978 to 1980, three friends/businessmen saw the potential of turning this location into a nursing home and residents' living quarters. Using their middle names to name the business, it reopened as the Lee Allen Bryant Healthcare Facility. Despite starting well, the place had problems like not having enough staff to care for the growing number of patients, as the state also transferred patients from other mental institutions to this location, resulting in a mixed mental health nursing home and patient resident population. There are records of more than 4,000 deaths and many tragedies, including many allegations of resident abuse and death. I could not find a lot of those though, but if I do later, I will make another video. Now, facing criticism from the community, the state began investigating the healthcare center and uncovered further instances of neglect. Lawsuits and numerous serious violations against the hospital and its nursing staff accumulated, casting a dark shadow over Lee Allen Bryant Healthcare's future. However, what occurred in the summer of 2009 unexpectedly contributed to sealing the fate of the building. I will tell you that story in a second. So the state ordered the nursing home to close in 2011, moving residents and employees between 2009 and 2011 to any facility that would have them. As you will see, this hurried move left a lot of equipment, furniture, and personal belongings behind. These buildings sat empty for 10 years until Greg and Carol Larson bought them in December of 2020. They planned to make it into a place with different uses. Now for these stories. It was 2009, just a regular Saturday afternoon. An employee of Lee Allen Bryant's Healthcare arrived for his shift. He clocked in, trying not to seem suspicious, though the sweat ran down his face and into his eyes. He wiped it away with shaking hands and looked around. There was no one here. He walked into the maintenance building. His almost glazed eyes searched the room, barely hiding the darkness inside. He located the person he was there for. He moved slowly towards him, doing his best not to spook the person into running where he might have to pursue. He reached him and stood facing him. His victim looked up and then saw the gun in his hand. Fright began to grow in his eyes. He got up to move and he opened fire on his co-worker. He saw the blood spurt from his chest as a bullet entered him. Then he watched as he slumped next to the workbench and lay still on the ground. He waited for him to die. Almost robotically, he turned and walked into the boiler room. He knew what he had done. He felt he had to do it. And now he knows he had to do something else. Putting the gun against his body, he pulled the trigger. Later, after investigating the incident, police determined it to be a drug-related murder-suicide. Mary woke with a start. She looked around wildly, dreading what she might see in the darkened room. Her nightmare was so real she almost expected to see the now fading image that kept hounding her in her nightmares standing over her bed. Her roommate was still asleep, oblivious to the horror that woke Mary. Her roaming eyes came to rest on the right corner. She strained her eyes to see. That corner was unusually dark, but nothing moved. Mary took one last look around and lowered her back onto the pillows. She waited for sleep, but instead she found herself rising off the bed and sitting up. Her hand reached for the writing pad she kept on her nightstand. Her fingers also grasped the pen that she had laid next to it, and she began to write. Her hand moved across the page, but she had no control over what she was writing, nor could she see what she was writing. Finished, but with what? She slipped her naked feet into her bed slippers and walked out the door. She tried to stop herself, but something else had control over her body, and she could neither stop herself nor call out to anyone. She found herself at the main door. It opened in front of her, and her feet took her outside. The night was dark. The cold air hit her like an angry force, and she stood just long enough to hear the door close behind her. There was only a sliver of moon, which bathed her in its pale glow. Her body was moving through the night, at times as if she was floating above the grass. She reached the water tower and began climbing. She struggled to stop herself but could not. Up and up she went until she was at the top. She held onto the cold metal and felt herself being forced into a seated position. The metal beneath her was freezing cold. She shivered in the thin cotton nightgown. Her slippers had fallen off in the climb, and her feet were becoming numb. She tried to move but could not move to save her life. Hours passed, and the numbness spread. She slumped over. Her sight grew dark, and she was gone. The next day, they found the note Mary had written. It stated that she was going to the water tower because a ghost told her to. Upon checking, they found Mary dead at the tower. An autopsy revealed she had died of hypothermia.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
While working, have you ever encountered anything?
Pardon?
While working here, have you ever seen or encountered anything?
Nothing paranormal. You know,
Yeah.
pretty close to that because I'm like focused on what I'm working on.
Oh,
So,
like what? Can you share?
well, that's fine. No, what I'm saying is like when I'm here, I'm working, and so like I don't notice if something happens.
Oh, okay.
So I've never had an experience here.
Okay.
Paranormal.
Okay. I don't believe in the paranormal, but
Yeah. I don't either. I mean, the place definitely is creepy with all the stuff that they left in the buildings. But I haven't seen anything that says ghosts exist because that happened. I haven't had anything like that.
Exactly. right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome to walk around the building even though I'm working.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Months passed after Mary's death, but death still needed its lust for humans satiated. Darrell woke with a start, much like Mary, and pushed his socked feet into his ratty old broken down sneakers. Like a robot, he walked to the bedroom door. He opened it and walked out, leaving it ajar. His roommate was transferred earlier, and he was the only one sleeping here tonight. He walked past the preoccupied nurse and opened the door. Walking out into the night, he moved towards the laundry room and found a piece of rope laying on the ground in the corner. Gathering it in his arms, he turned and continued his trek through the trees, disappearing into the dense forest where not even the full moon's light could penetrate. Walking, stepping over fallen trees and brushes, oblivious to the thorny brushes dragging his skin, pulling blood. He moved towards the old oak tree. He found himself climbing. He stopped to make a noose. This was it. Upon realizing this patient was missing, a search was done, but it was too late. The patient was found less than a quarter mile away, and he was deceased. Death came calling again as the next to go got up, and as though in a daze, he walked off the property and into a speeding vehicle. He died on the spot. Then next, Winston felt the pull and the need to go into the woods. He walked as if propelled towards the sound of the creek. Later, they found his lifeless body in the water. An autopsy revealed he had drowned. To close, there have been many tragedies at this location, and as I said earlier, if I find any more or more facts to this, I will bring that in another video. Well, that's it for now. Did you see anything? If you did, let me know. Also, did you enjoy the video? If so, remember to like, share, and comment on it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so now. Also, click the All option in the drop-down menu so you don't miss any of my uploads. Thanks as always to my longtime friends. Some of you subscribers have become friends to me. Thank you for always being here and making me laugh. I really appreciate you. Remember to love yourself and others, and I will catch you on the next one. Love you. Bye.